Manchester United agree internally to cash in on Mason Greenwood this summer. Shock move for Luton Town star. Dan Ashworth deal looking like it will be happening this week. And Manchester United apparently targeting 4 key signings this summer. These are all the talking points for this morning's news show. But before we jump into that, please smash a like on today's video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's get straight on into it. So let's start off with the story about a shock move for a Luton Town player. So this is coming out from 2 or 3 different journalists here in the UK this morning. And the headline is that Manchester United are now considering making a summer move for Ross Barkley. Now, people are probably all sat there with their cups of tea or coffee this morning thinking, what the hell have I just woken up to? Ross Barkley? Really? I agree. I'm a little bit confused by this. Obviously, Ross Barkley went to Nice, which is Jim Ratcliffe's other club. He was there for, I think, 1 season. And I don't think it really worked out for him there. But Jim Ratcliffe is apparently a massive fan of Ross Barkley. Obviously, you know, he was a good player at one point back in the day. Now, I'll be honest, guys, I don't want Ross Barkley anywhere near Manchester United. He's 30 years of age. He's just not that good. I know he's done well for Luton, but people are like, oh, it's only Luton. Luton have been a good side this season. They have. They nearly beat us. They should have got a draw against Arsenal. Like, they've been a really good side this season. And I think, to be honest with you, Ross Barkley's an all right player, but he's the kind of player who's at a Luton or an Everton. He's not a player who should be coming into Man United. Where's he going to play? You're telling me that Ross Barkley's going to replace Bruno Fernandes? I mean, for me, it's a massive no. I respect what he's done at Luton. I think he's had a good season, but for us to sign him, I think it would just be laughable, to be completely honest with you. But we'll have to wait and see. You know, I know a lot of people have said, is Jim Ratcliffe going to focus on British players? Because that was some of the murmurs that were spoke about over the last couple of months, you know, that he's going to bring in a core squad of British homegrown players, you know, people who know the Premier League. And Ross Barkley would fit that profile perfectly. So if that is Jim Ratcliffe's plan, maybe Ross Barkley will come to Manchester United. I just don't think he's the profile of player that we should be looking at for me personally. You know, if we're going to go and sign a centre attacking midfielder, we need to go and sign one of the best in the world, a young player. Someone like Florian Wirtz from Bayern Leverkusen as an example. Like, those are the types of names we should be looking at. Not Ross Barkley at the age of 30 who moved to Luton as a free agent in the summer. So that's the first part of today's show. Obviously, for me, it's a no. But if you disagree with me, let me know in the comment section. Is Ross Barkley United level? Let me know your thoughts. Right, let's move over to Mason Greenwood. I know this is obviously a highly opinionated subject, but this is coming out from Fabrizio Romano, obviously, in my opinion, the most reliable football journalist at the moment. And Fabrizio Romano is reporting this morning is, what I can tell you is that the feeling internally at Manchester United is that they will now cash in on Mason Greenwood. So it looks like a decision has been made. I know Jim Ratcliffe in his press conference when he was announced as the co-owner, kind of made it a little bit up in the air, didn't he? Like, we'll make a decision, we'll see if he's a bad person. But I said at the time, if he'd have come out and said, we don't want Mason Greenwood, we don't want anything to do with him, his value would have been nothing, because everyone would have known we wanted to get rid of him. Whereas if he comes out and says, we've still got a decision to make, we'll think about it, it makes it a little bit more up in the air. And we obviously know that Barcelona are interested, we know that Atletico Madrid are interested, and we know that Getafe are interested in. And from my perspective here, 40 million minimum you'd get for him, I think. 40 million pounds, that's 100% profit. He's come through the youth academy. That can go straight back into our transfer budget, will massively help our financial fair play. Is Mason Greenwood a good player? Yes. He's arguably probably our best attacking player. He's better than Rashford, in my opinion. He's better than Antony, in my opinion. He's better than Sancho. He's better than Garnacho. But the issue that we have is the situation with him is now out in the public court of law, okay? It's out in the public court of law. Everybody has an opinion. Whether you think he's a good footballer or not, that's not the question here. It's whether Manchester United will be able to deal with him coming back, every press conference, being asked about it, every single away ground, he'll be getting abuse, all sorts of horrible things will be happening. Whereas he's living a life in Spain at the moment. He's living under the radar. He's playing football. He's doing well. I just think if he came back to Manchester United, it wouldn't be like that. And I think after a couple of games, I think the people that do want him back will probably quite quickly turn on him, if he puts in a couple of bad performances, and their opinions will change, and that will be it. So I think selling him in the summer is 100% the right decision. Cash in on him and go and reinvest that money in another attacking player. Maybe you sell him for 40, 50 million and you go and buy Michael Olise. That would be good. You're swapping one right winger for another right winger. They're both of a similar profile. Michael Olise, I think, is 21. I think Mason Green. So Olise is 22 and Greenwood is also 22. You know, it makes complete sense. You trigger Michael Elise's release clause, I think it's £50 million, and then you try and sell Mason Greenwood for £50 million. You know, it's win-win. You're getting a young right winger to replace another young right winger. And that's what I would do personally. But obviously, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. The next story we've got is on Dan Ashworth, again, coming out from the very reliable Fabrizio Romano. And Dan Ashworth is reporting that Manchester United are prepared to continue talks with Newcastle in the coming days to agree on a compensation package for Dan Ashworth. It says Manchester United want Dan Ashworth to be part of their project as soon as possible. Ineos will try again. So, as we all know, the situation with Dan Ashworth, he's been put on gardening leave, which effectively means that he is being paid in full by Newcastle. He's not working for Newcastle anymore, but he can't now go and work for another team. I think it's for 18 months. And Manchester United are in the process of negotiation some sort of compensation package, which will allow Dan Ashworth to start working immediately. Now, I've been doing a bit of digging on this. Obviously, Jim Ratcliffe put out a couple of salty comments, didn't he? Saying, you know, it's not fair that he's in his garden, obviously trying to have a bit of a laugh. You know, he's not actually in his garden. It's just a term, gardening leave. But apparently Dan Ashworth and Eddie Howe had actually almost fallen out and hadn't been working very well at Newcastle. So I don't think Newcastle really have much of a leg to stand on here, because it's not like Dan Ashworth and Eddie Howe, you know, were working really well together. My understanding was that they weren't agreeing on each other's kind of methods and stuff. So I think Newcastle will probably be somewhat quite happy, actually, that they can now go and find another person. Now, does this ring alarm bells? I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know. I'm going to give Dan Ashworth a chance. I think, you know, we know that Dan Ashworth, Jim Ratcliffe, Sir Dave Brailsford already have a good relationship. And we know that Dan Ashworth's going to bring in, I think, Julian Ward, who used to be the head of recruitment at Liverpool. So I think it'll be a whole new team at Manchester United. Will that be a new manager? I don't know. We'll talk about that in a minute. But let me know what you think about Dan Ashworth. I'm personally really excited about him. I think he'll be good. I think, you know, his trajectory from working at the FA, then to Brighton's head of recruitment, and then to Newcastle's to director of football. I think it's impressive, and I think it's, you know, it does excite me. So yeah, let's hope that we get that done this week, and let's hope that we can just kind of move on from this and start actually planning for the summer. Which takes me nicely on to the next story. And this is coming out from a couple of different journalists this morning here in the UK, and they're reporting that Manchester United's main targets this summer in the transfer market are a new striker, a new right back, a new right-sided centre-back, and also a new midfielder. I mean, I think that sounds about right as a bare minimum. A new striker, 100%. A new right-back, we know Wan-Bissaka's probably going to leave. A right-sided centre-back, we hope Maguire's going to leave, and I think Varane will probably leave, maybe even Lindelof as well. So I think a right-sided centre-back is obviously essential. Obviously, Luke Shaw can play left-sided centre-back, and Martinez can play left-sided centre-back. So we have got a couple of options on that left side of the defensive too. So I think a right-sided centre-back, yeah, great, 100%. And then also a new midfielder, I think that's absolutely essential. It does look like Casemiro will be leaving in the summer, you know, with Saudi clubs circling for his signature. And I think if we could bring in, you know, a world-class centre midfielder to play alongside Kobe Mainoo, I would be all for it. And maybe we see Mason Mount get some more opportunities in Bruno Fernandes's position next season. Like, that's what we need really, really badly. So those 4 signings, I think, as a bare minimum, are okay. You know, 4 signings. I think more what the story's saying is it's 4 signings as a minimum. Obviously, if we were then to go and sell 5 more players, you know, if you sold a Rashford, if you sold a Bruno, like, you would obviously then have to replace them. But as a bare minimum, United want a striker, a right back, a right-sided centre-back, and a midfielder. And I think I agree with that. I do. Because we have got lots of wingers. You've got Pellistri, Ahmad, Sancho, Anthony. You've got Bruno who can play there. You've got Rashford. You've got Garnacho. Like, we've got 7 or 8 players in those wing positions. Yes, some of them aren't very good, but you've still got 7 or 8 players that you need to do something with before you can then replace. Whereas striker, we have 1 striker. Martial's contract expires in June. Rasmus Højlund's the only striker. Rashford can't play as the striker. He doesn't work. You know, same with the right back. We've had an absolute disaster this season with our right back and left back. Malacia has been injured all season. Luke Shaw's pretty much been injured all season. Wan-Bissaka's injured. We've got 1 fullback at the moment, and that's Dalot, and the whole squad, you know? So I can see why we're doing that. And for me personally, I hope that we go and get Jeremy Frimpong. But let me know in the comment section, guys, who would you like to see in those key positions? You know, a striker, who will it be? A right back, who? A right-sided centre-back, and a midfielder. So And then finally, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Erik ten Hag. Obviously, I did a video yesterday which got a really, really interesting response on whether Erik ten Hag should remain as the Manchester United manager. And it's always good to see what other Man United fans think. So my stance on it is still that we should give Erik ten Hag until the end of next season. He's got 1 year left of his contract. Keep him for the rest of this season. Let him help clear out all of the deadwood. I know we don't like the term deadwood, but let's just call it that for argument's sake. Clear out all the players that are surplus to requirements. You know, there's probably about 10 players that should be leaving. Donny van der Beek, Anthony. Anthony's not going to go, but he should go. Sancho, Varane, Casemiro, Lindelof, Maguire, McTominay, Rashford probably. Like, you know, there are so many players that need to go. And I think it's essential that Erik ten Hag is part of that. Not buying the new players, though. I just want him to be there to have a voice to get rid of people, because that was where we fell so badly last time. Ralph Rangnick came in. He said that we needed open heart surgery. He said we needed as many as 10 players, and the Glazers sacked him because they didn't like what he was saying. And I think it's absolutely essential that we keep Erik ten Hag, at least for this summer. Help him, remove these players. Say, Erik ten Hag, this is your last chance. You've got 12 months until your contract's up. Either you start getting us results, either you start showing us a style of play, or you're out. That's my take. But let me know what you guys think. This has been Daily Red Devil. Thank you so much to everyone who's watched this morning. If you did enjoy today's show, please smash a like before you go. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll speak to you all a little bit later.